Welcome to my latest video. You can see I got a little tiling job here to do, and I started removing some of the thin set, and my scraper broke, and we'll show you that here in a minute. So what I'm doing is a floor. I went out and bought a rotary hammer, Harbor Freight. They're carrying this new line, Bauer. And where's the hammer? Over there on the floor. Right now, right here. And it was a shocker when I went into the store to buy this thing because, of course, I tried to use the 20% coupon. And the guy at the register says, nope. Not with Bauer, you're not. So they've got these new brands now, Harbor Freight. They got Bauer and I don't know, a couple of other brands where they're selling lithium-powered drills. Those brands are excluded from the 20% coupon, including this one, Bauer. But the guy at the register gave me the 20% anyway because he said I looked confused, and that he believed I was sincere, that I didn't know. So he gave me the 20% off. This thing was $130 otherwise, so I wasn't going to buy it at $130. But with the 20% off coupon, it ended up to be $100. So anyway, that's out of the way. What I'm going to do now is I got a scraper on order. I'll have to wait for the scraper to come in, but in the meantime, tomorrow I could probably start cutting wood. This is a hybrid floor I'm making. I'm going to put a picture up. If I haven't already, I might put a picture up in the introduction. But a hybrid floor is wood flooring mixed with tile. And I got a piece of wood flooring here, by the way. This is just a regular tongue and groove wood flooring. And I got a couple of, 1, 2, 3, I got about 4 boxes up there up on the shelf left over from when I did my living room. So I'll be using those. I'll have to get them onto the circular saw over there and cut the wood up. But that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. I don't want to make this video too long. So if I got anything going on tomorrow, I'll let you know. Welcome back. Before I cut any wood, I feel obliged to give you a little bit of an education here. I'm going to impart, on the right screen here, try to impart some of my knowledge to you. I'm not a professional, but I've done a couple of floors. So first thing I want to warn you about is that these days, with tile and flooring and with a lot of things, unfortunately, manufacturers may specify a size like 12 by 12 tile, or I found with tile spacers, they may claim a spacer as a 1/16 of an inch, but in fact it's 2 millimeter, which is not a 1/16 of an inch. So be very, very careful with dimensions because it matters. The spacers I just bought for this project are 2 millimeter. I bought them off Amazon. We'll get to that a little later, but like I said, you have to be careful because they advertised it on Amazon as a 1/16 inch spacer, and in fact it's 2 millimeter, and 2 millimeter is thicker than a 1/16 of an inch. These dimensions do matter, especially on a hybrid floor. Now you're looking at my computer screen here, and I got my CAD opened up, and I wanted to show you the shape of the wood and how it's going to be cut. And you don't have to cut it this way. Some guys, I noticed, they use a basket weave kind of pattern, but I like this pattern better. Comes to a point, 245s on the board. The board itself is 15.2 inches long, and all of this, by the way, is predicated. The number one thing you have to know is your tile size. All of these dimensions are derived from the tile size. Now my tile is 12 inch, okay, and I checked it, and it is in fact 12 inches. And the reason I'm warning you about these dimensions is because these guys, a lot of manufacturers these days are getting stuff from China or wherever, and they are marking common dimensions on them like 12 by 12, but in fact they may be a little larger or a little smaller, so be very careful, especially when you're having to cut wood around a piece of tile. You want to know that the tile is actually 12 by 12. So anyway, getting back to this, not to get into the weeds, but some things you have to think about when you cut it, like cutting this piece of wood out. This piece of wood's going to surround the tile, and I'm going to use a 16th inch, or I should say 2 millimeter spacing all the way around the tile to have a little expansion contraction, and we will fill it in with grout. It's a very narrow gap, so the dimensions are very critical when we cut the wood. But you'll notice that the dimension on the inside here where the tile will go, that dimension, I don't know if you can see it, it says 12.16 inches. That dimension takes into account the tile spacers, and it'll be a spacer, one on one end and one on the other, so it's actually 4 millimeters. So if you convert 4 millimeters into inches, it's going to be about 12.16 or 12.18, I forget now. Hold on a second. This dimension, I thought I remember telling myself that I had to go back and redo it, so I might have used the wrong number. So 2 millimeters is 0.0787. This is a conversion program. So let's see what 4 millimeters is. Let's see. 4.157. So it's 0.16 rounded off. So the dimension on my drawing is correct for two 2 millimeter tile spacers. So these are the kinds of things you have to think about. Number one is you have to know what size tile you have, and then you can cut wood, okay? So let's just close this off, and I think I told you I did the layout in CAD also. We'll just take a real quick look at that. Takes a long time for this program to open up. And the border here is my little foyer there that I'm going to be tiling, and I laid this thing out so that I could move this around and get a layout that's pleasing to the eye, where I don't have tiny little pieces of tile either. Unfortunately, I have a couple of pieces of tile here, 3 pieces that are going to be narrow, but it's the best I could do. And you can see, the 45-degree cuts on the wood. And if you look close to the photos I have in my video, you'll see that that's the same pattern I used on the floor in Illinois in my old house. I'll show you how to do this later, but these connections are made with biscuits. So, welcome back. I've been toiling away at this floor here. I got my new scraper, and I'm almost finished with it. I've only been doing like a couple of hours a day because I'm 66 years old now, and this does make me tired. What it does is it makes my arms tired with the vibration. This is a job you definitely have to have hearing protection and eye protection. It's not as easy as I thought, and on second thought, if I were to do this again, this is a relatively small area. This area here is, maybe 8 by 8 or something like that, but if you got a room that's over, say, 10 by 12 or something like that, if it's over that, I wouldn't be using this scraper. Rental places, now I don't know if Home Depot has this, but regular commercial type rental places, mostly, they have concrete, what they call concrete grinders, and what it is essentially looks like a floor polisher, and it's got an abrasive pad on it, and it'll take that down in short order. For a little job like this, it's not worth it. But if you got like a big kitchen, okay, easy enough to pop the tiles out, pop them up. But once you get down to the grout, and obviously, I'm shooting this video and I never even mentioned, but you can see this is on a slab. So if you're popping tiles up and you're on a slab and you're doing a kitchen or a bedroom or a bathroom that's got a pretty good size floor area, you probably better rent a machine. So pop up all the tiles first, get it all cleaned up, throw away all the broken tiles and stuff, and then go on in there with the floor concrete grinder, what they call concrete grinder. Make sure you can get one that has a vacuum attachment so you don't make a whole mess. Otherwise, you're going to have to put plastic up to prevent the dust from going everywhere. So anyway, let me get back at this. And you get the idea. I'm going to finish this video off. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to start cutting some wood here. And this will probably only yield one piece. I told you before we have to cut off the tongues. Cannot do this with the tongues on the board. So this just takes a few cuts. You want to make sure you hold the knife at an angle like this, and get into the corner here and score it. We'll do this a couple times here. Maybe one more. Good luck. Okay. And yeah, probably a good idea to take the end off too, the end tongue, just in case the board does yield two pieces. This one won't, but just in case. You cannot cut it on the saw with this tongue on it. We also have to score the backside. Again, couple. This doesn't have to line up with the. It doesn't have to line up with the score mark on the top. It'll be just fine. Okay, that's good enough. What I do is take a pair of pliers. Let's see if I can get this in camera view here, and start on one end of obviously, and I break the tongue away from the board. You don't want to lift it up on the board. You don't want to damage the edge of the board, the finished edge. Just go along, break right off. Sometimes you got to clean it up a little bit with the utility knife afterwards, but not a big deal. You absolutely have to do this before you cut the wood. Otherwise, you got to make a point here. And if you had a tongue here, the point would be offset. So you'd ruin the piece. No tongue. So we'll get the rest of this. I got a pair of duckbill pliers. I don't know why I'm using these. Probably be easier and faster if you have a pair of, long duckbill pliers. Okay. And I've already cut several pieces, by the way, so before shooting this video here. Get the end off here. Okay. You need to clean it up just a little bit, just so that it's even with the edge. Just knock it down. You want to make sure that the finish edge can sit flat against the saw when you're cutting it. That's pretty much it for this. Okay, we'll take it in and we'll cut it. But before I do that, I want to show you. Carry my tripod over here. Already cut a few pieces. Put some light here. I'm gonna biscuit these joints, and I use a couple different tiles just to make sure that the tiles are all the same size. And got two pieces cut here, but these pieces here, this is what I want to show you. This is what it took me to get the saw dialed in. These are all too short. And remember what I said about short pieces. Short pieces are going to be used elsewhere. I got short pieces here, 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 mostly in the corners where the tile and the hybrid floor is going to meet the existing flooring. So they can be used, they just can't be used for this, okay? And so let's go in and saw a piece of wood. Okay, so this is what I got set up here. I don't know if you can see this here. I'm using this as a stop for my saw. So this is already set up to the right length. And I just cut a 45 145 in this direction, flip it over, cut it again, turn it around, another 45, turn it around, another 45. I can already see by eye that this piece is only going to yield one piece, but it is what it is. I got lots of long pieces and a lot of short pieces. I don't know if you can see here or not, but I've got a contraption set up over here. Try to catch the sawdust. It works pretty good. It's hooked to my shop vac, so you'll hear that when I start sawing away. But my feeble attempt to control the sawdust. And it's hotter than hell in this garage right now. This is Florida. Probably about 100 degrees in this garage, and it's 11:30 at night. Got a fan blowing here. You can't see, but that pushes the sawdust into the box, and it gets sucked out by my shop vac. And just got to make a whole bunch more. Welcome back. As you can see, I've been prefabbing some of these frames, and the way I do it is over the top of a tile. Well, you get the idea, like this, and I've been using some weights to keep it flat and tight. And of course I got all my boards cut out here, all that I need and then some right here. And it's my drawing. And I'll prefab most of these that have all four pieces. I'll prefab them together, make it easier to lay out. I've got another one here, you can see. I'll have to show you how to prefab these things, but the bottom line is that we have to route a slot in the end of the boards here, and I'll show you how to do that. That's in the garage. And let me take 4 boards here into the garage. There's 4. Okay, let me step back a little bit here. What we got here is a horizontal router. And what I've got there is a 1/8 inch router bit. And that router bit is used to route slots in the boards. Now, a lot of you probably don't have a horizontal router. Let me get around this way here for a second. This is what a horizontal router is. The router is mounted horizontally, and we got a adjustment for the bit right here, and it moves up and down. Also, you have a normal router table. In that case, you would use a slotter, an 1/8 inch slotting wheel on a normal router. That's up to you. It's easier for me to set this thing up than it is my table router, so that's why I'm using this. Use whatever you have that's going to suit the purpose. The way I align this bit up is that the board already has a slot in it. It came from the factory. So I just align the router head to the slot in the board so I know it's at the right height. And then I route in the edges of the board, all four edges here. Route a slot in them on all the boards, and then I used the word biscuit before. That's the wrong word. It's not a biscuit, it's really a spline. We put a spline between the two boards like this when we're forming. Put a spline between them, we use some yellow glue, and we glue them together like that. And that's how we prefab them. So let me shut this down. Okay, I'll try to get one done here before my camera battery goes dead. I noticed it's going dead, but let's see if I can get this thing lined up. Got it right there. Do an edge here. Okay, you get the idea. We'll use splines to join these. And I need to shut this down before my battery goes bad. Welcome back. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing dry fit. Nothing's glued down, but I'm just fitting wood and tile. I cut some tile. 99.9% of you won't have this problem, but I'm matching an existing floor to my hybrid floor, and my hybrid floor is slightly higher because of the thickness of the tiles. And so I added a second border around the flooring here that will canter upwards a little bit. Now, of course, your eye will never see that. It's only about a 1/16 of an inch, if even that much. But 99.99% of you won't have that problem. If you, in the 1/10 of 1% that do, and you're trying to match an existing wood floor like I am here or something like that, where height is a concern, then that's another thing to watch out for. You want to watch out, you want to be aware of what the height of the finished floor is, that's the wood floor here, and what the expected height of your floor is going to be. Now my levelers will bring the tile and the additional board to a flat and even level, and that'll only takes one tile over the area of this one tile. The rest of the floor will be all at one level. The only place I have to worry about is where the board is, where this new floor meets the old floor. Again, that's something that you won't have to worry about. A couple other things I want to, let me see, bear with me, let me walk into my kitchen area here. I mentioned biscuits a couple times and then splines. And the spline I'm using is an 1/8 inch basswood stick. I don't know what this is, probably 1/2 inch. Maybe I'll measure it in a minute. It's an 1/8 inch thick and it's about a 1/2 inch wide. And you can get these things at any hobby store, any hobby shop. Most hobby shops will carry it. If they don't carry sticks, you can get, these are basswood sheets. You can cut your own 1/8 inch basswood sheet. Buy it again at the hobby shop. I already looked at Lowe's and Home Depot. They don't carry anything as thin as an 1/8 inch. They got a 1/4 inch. That's about it. That's as low as they go. So if you want an 1/8 of an inch, you're going to go to a hobby shop. And I got a whole bunch here, but probably way more than I need. But these work great for splines. And I need to turn my light on here. There you go. Let me measure this stick. It's a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. Okay, so it's a 1/2 by 1/8 basswood stick. And I just, cut off 3/4, 1 inch of it. And we use it to join the wood. So this is already too long, so I'm going to get back at it. By the way, I laid out my tiles on the floor here so I could look at colors and variations, but I also set them aside for thickness. All of these tiles are about the same thickness, with the exception of these. These are thinner and very close to 3/8 of an inch, which is what the wood thickness is. And so I'm using those up front so that the transition to the thicker tile isn't noticeable from the finished floor to the new floor. All right, enough. I've said enough. Well, I finally started to do some of the glue down after procrastinating for a long time, and I measured this thing out, drew it out, assembled it, disassembled it, put it back together again. Because I have this 45-degree cutout here, it was kind of hard to lay this thing out to make sure that it all stayed in alignment after gluing it down. And lucky for me, it did. So it should. The rest of it should go pretty smoothly. This was the hardest part, matching it to the floor. I told you before, matching it to the same level. That's done. The leveling system, I don't know if I mentioned it before or not, but I got this on Amazon. Perfect level master T-lock. Seemed to work pretty good. I'm impressed. First time I ever used them. Definitely brought the wood and the tile to the same level. So they did what they're supposed to do. Hopefully these damn things are going to break off, like they show in the video. And supposedly you're supposed to just be able to kick them and they break off. Well, hopefully they're all going to break off, because it would be a real pain in the ass trying to dig that stuff out, especially when I only got about 1/16 of an inch grout line there. All right, so I'm going to let this go now. I'm going to try to finish this thing up. Okay, so we come to the end of this video. Got all the tiling down, as you can see. The only thing I haven't done is grout, and I'm happy with the job. It was a hard job, a little harder than I thought, because this area here slowed me down, because it's an enclosed area, and I could only put a couple tiles down at a time, and then I'd have to allow them to set before I could move on, because not enough room for me to move around in that area. But looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. And so, like I said, I'm going to end this video.